In Iran, the body of martyred President Ibrahim Raisi was buried in the mausoleum of Imam Reza, peace be upon him, the 8th Shahid Imam in Mashad, northeastern Iran. The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, assured that the trial against Ecuador is not yet over after the decision of the International Court of Justice not to impose precautionary measures for the assault on the embassy in Quito. And the Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives in Belarus on state visit to discuss security issues with Alexander Lukashenko. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Iran, the body of martyred President Ibrahim Raisi was buried in the mausoleum of Imam Reza, peace be upon him, the 8th Shahid Imam in Mashad, northeastern Iran. From the early hours of Thursday, Iranian citizens in Mashad took to the streets to bid farewell to their president dead, along with his Chancellor Hossein Amir Abdullahian and other colleagues in a helicopter crash on Sunday 19th in the northwestern province of East Azerbaijan. The farewell ceremony has been historic. According to the Mashad City Hall, more than 3 million people have participated in the ceremony to say the last farewell to the leader. In Iran, the General Staff of the Armed Forces published the preliminary report of the Supreme Committee in charge of investigating the dimensions and causes of the crash of the helicopter carrying the President Ibrahim Raisi and his companions. The report states that a significant amount of information has been gathered from various specialized technical and general fields that could be involved in the accident. However, investigations need more time to express a definitive opinion. For now, it can be determined that the helicopter continued on the planned route and did not depart from the designated flight path. It also detailed that approximately a minute and a half before the accident, the pilot of the crashed helicopter communicated with the other 2 helicopters of the flight group. On the other hand, it is known that the documents will reach the audience and the opinion of the people of Iran in the next announcement once the investigative work has been completed. The report also detailed that no traces of bullet damage or anything similar were observed in the wreckage of the helicopter and that it caught fire after crashing into a cliff. On the day of the crash, the search actions continued until 5 in the morning due to the crashed area's dense fog and cold weather and ended after the helicopter crash site was found through Iranian drones and then the rescue teams went to the site. In turn, the report stated that no suspicious points were detected in the helicopter cruise communications and dialogues with the control tower. During the search efforts, a large part of the documents and artifacts related to the accident were collected. However, it will require more time to study them in depth. The Israeli government recently expanded the so-called humanitarian zone and Gazans have begun to settle in the area, despite the fact that their basic needs are not being met as promised by the occupation army. Our correspondent Huda Hegazi has more details.
Me encuentro en la zona del Mawasi de
I am in the Al-Mawasi area of Khan Younis. I'm very close to the area of Rafah Barracks, an area that the Israeli army expanded as humanitarian zone about 2 days ago. And as we can see behind me, people are already starting to set up their tents in this place. There is starting to be movement since the area was proclaimed only 2 days ago as a humanitarian zone, a safe zone. As soon as it was declared as a safe zone, the Gazans who had left the governorate of Rafah have come to settle in this place. As you can see in our screens, there are already starting to be some small stalls, some tents, and people are starting to set up in this place. But it should be noted that this area was not prepared as the Israeli army had claimed.
Ya están empezando a ver algo de puestos pequeños, algo de tiendas de campaña,
The
gente
Israeli
que
army
está
claimed that this area
empezando
was going
a
to be prepared
instalarse en
with
este
tents,
lugar,
medical
pero
areas,
hay que
water,
destacar que
electricity.
esta zona no
Instead, it
estaba
was completely
preparada como
deserted,
había
and it
alegado el
was the
ejército
Gazans
de
themselves who
Israel,
started to set up their
que iba a
tents.
estar
But
preparada con
unfortunately,
tiendas de
the
campaña,
area to
con
get food,
zonas
to get
médicas, con
electricity, was
agua,
completely
con
deserted,
electricidad,
which
sino que esta zona
difficults
era una
their
zona
availability to get
completamente
food, electricity,
desierta,
or
y
water.
los mismos gazatíes han sido ellos quienes han empezado a instalar sus tiendas de campaña, pero lamentablemente
The
la
Gazans have
zona
to
para
walk long
conseguir
distances to be
alimentos,
able to
para
bring some drinking
conseguir
water,
corriente
even to prepare
eléctrica
their
o
food.
agua
As we
está
can
siendo
see, there are
bastante
hardly any
complicado.
stalls
Los
here,
gazatíes
since, as
tienen
I
que
said,
realizar
this is a
largos
completely new
trayectos
area.
para poder
And
traer
unfortunately, the
algo
Israeli
de
army
agua
proclaimed
potable
only
para
2 days
poder
ago
utilizar.
that this was going
Incluso
to
la
be
comida,
one of the
como
safe
podemos
zones
ver,
here in the Gaza
apenas
Strip.
hay puestos, ya que, como he dicho, esta zona es una zona completamente nueva, y solamente hace 2 días el
Now we
ejército
will
de
talk to
Israel
one of the Gazans
proclamó
who
que
settled
esta
this
iba a
area
ser una
again,
de las
so
zonas
he can tell
seguras
us
aquí
when
en
he
la
came
franja de
here
Gaza.
and how is the situation he's
Ahora
subjected to in
hablaremos
this
con uno de
place.
los gazatíes que se ha instalado aquí nuevamente para que nos cuente cuándo ha
Hello,
venido
how are
y
you?
cómo esta
Please
situación
tell
está
us where you
sometida en
came
este lugar.
from, when, and how did you come here, and how is your situation now?
We were displaced from the north of the Gaza Strip. We came to Rafah because, according to the Jews, it is a safe area. After a while, when they finished attacking the north, they went to the south. Then they put out leaflets saying that the area of Al-Mawasi, Khan Yunis, and Deir al-Balah were safe areas. So we went there believing what the leaflet said. We didn't go to Rafah. We found that the place as you were seeing it, it is a desert. Here we don't have a minimum conditions to live. There is no drinking water. We have to look for seawater if we want to cook or wash or drink. To top it all, a little girl was injured in this place that they say is a safe place because of random shots fired from the sea. A little girl was injured. Here we make a call to the European countries, to the countries that they say they are defenders of human rights, that we are a people that have the right to live as the rest of the world lives. I can only say this to you.
As we can see, according to the statements of this Gazati, he had to move from the north to the south of Gaza, in the Rafah governorate. And as soon as the army announced the ground operation, he was forced to come to this area, which the army claimed was a safe area. But as we have heard from him, this area is not safe.
Pero hemos escuchado a través de sus palabras que esta zona no es segura. En el día de hoy, los barcos del ejército han empezado a lanzar
The army chiefs
proyectiles
have
de
started
artillería,
firing artillery
provocando la
shells,
lesión
injuring a
de
minor.
una
He
menor,
also
y
assured
sobre
us
todo
that
nos asegura
when they
que
arrived
una vez
here,
que
the
llegó
area was
aquí, la
completely
zona
empty.
estaba
They have started to set up
completamente
tents,
vacía.
and
Ellos
he
mismos
assures
han
us that
empezado
their
a
basic
instalar
needs
estas
are not
tiendas de
covered here.
campaña, y nos ha
They can't find
asegurado de
food,
que aquí
water,
no hay nada de las necesidades básicas para vivir, no encuentran agua, no encuentran alimentos, y aseguran de que deben de recorrer largas
and they
distancias
claim
para
that they have
poder
to travel long
conseguir
distances
al
to
menos
get
agua
drinking
potable
water.
para poder
And
beber.
from here,
Y
they're
desde
asking
aquí
all
están pidiendo a
international
todas las organizaciones
organizations to find a
internacionales
solution to all the
encontrar
false
a
claims of the
una
Israeli
solución,
army
sobre
that
todo las
said that
alegaciones
this was a
falsas del
safe
ejército de
area.
Israel de que esta
As
zona
he
es
has
segura,
denounced,
y como
this area is
este
not safe
señor
and
nos
is
ha
subject to
negado,
constant
esta zona
attacks
no
and
es segura y
operations
está
by the Israeli
sometida
army.
a continuos ataques y violaciones por parte del ejército de Israel.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, assured that the trial against Ecuador is not yet over after the decision of the International Court of Justice not to impose precautionary measures for the assault on the embassy in Quito. The Mexican president indicated that the provisional measures proposed in the International Court were with the purpose of protecting the Mexican embassy and the documentation kept in the diplomatic institution. The Mexican head of state also ruled out any possibility of reestablishing dialogue and relations with the administration of Daniel Noboa, stating that the leader violated international law and violated Mexico's sovereignty. President López Obrador also indicated that the case against Ecuador is important to set a precedent so that there is no other violation of international law.
Son medidas cautelares, todavía no termina el juicio.
If what was requested in the precautionary measures was that the embassy be protected, I think that it will take time. And it is important that it be a precedent.
El presidente, para que nunca más
so that international law is never again violated and an embassy is invaded, which is a violation of the sovereignty of a country. And we will continue with this position. We are not looking for dialogue with those who do not respect the sovereignty of our country. This is already in the international court, and it will be solved there.
Esto ya está en la Corte Internacional y allá se va a resolver. Todo a través de la Corte. Además,
everything through the court, also by initiative of other governments and leaders. They have been asked to release the former vice president who had been granted asylum. He has been granted it in Mexico, and they have not bothered.
In the Netherlands, the International Court of Justice announced that it will not issue the provisional measures demanded by Mexico against Ecuador after the assault on the Mexican embassy in Quito. The court concluded that the circumstances do not require the exercise of its power to take precautionary measures. The International Court also stressed that it considered it necessary to insist on the fundamental importance of the principles in the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Meanwhile, Mexico requested the court to suspend Ecuador as a member of the United Nations organization and that Quito guaranteed the full protection and security of the Mexican diplomatic headquarters. The legal consultant Alejandro Celorio Alcántara offered statements on the ICJ ruling on Mexico's request for provisional measures in response to the violent raid by the Ecuadorian police on the Mexican embassy.
Mexico feels very satisfied with today's decision. First and foremost, the judges of the International Court of Justice ratified and expressed that the inviolability of the diplomatic mission is a cornerstone of the relations between countries. This is of the utmost importance for Mexico, for Ecuador, for the world entirely, recognizing that there's no exceptions to inviolability.
The legal consultant also announced that with this decision, the Mexican embassy will not be violated again.
Even though the provisional measures that the government of Mexico requested weren't granted, this is a court and we presented our arguments and the judges had their considerations. We're reading with close attention what some judges had to say about the opinion, even concurring, they had their specifics. Just to say that now Mexico has a binding obligation on Ecuador to respect our embassy. That means that we can resort on Ecuador's not only credibility, but assurances and legal obligations before the court to know that our embassy won't be violated again. In a nutshell, Mexico won today because the inviolability of the locals is recognized as a cornerstone of international law and diplomatic relations. And secondly, because Ecuador is now under its obligation not to violate our embassy again.
The Colombian Congress approved an investment agreement with Venezuela to provide a legal tool to regulate and promote investments between both nations. It is the 285th bill debated in the House of Representatives and the 275th law discussed in the Senate to promote the mutual promotion and protection of investments based on an agreement signed in Caracas in February 2023. The ruling serves as a regulatory framework to promote investments between both countries and provides minimum guarantees for direct investment. It also provides for equal treatment between Venezuelan and Colombian nationals under the protection of the national treatment standard, thus maintaining the balance between potential foreign and Colombian investors.
To exchange products or trade with Colombia and Venezuela. And it is very important because we open doors so that the department can be revitalized and at least another way of trading its products can be found.
The Minister of Commerce, Industry and Tourism of Colombia, Germán Umaña Mendoza, highlighted the importance of this legal tool that provides institutional legal security to bilateral trade.
You understood that it was necessary to complete a framework of institutional legal security and human rights, and you approved the protection of Colombian and Venezuelan investors abroad. With safe mechanisms that will allow through all these agreements and all these ideas from the National Congress to ensure a good and better future for the people living on the border. The men and women of the border, the economic and social agents, and a better future for Colombia and Venezuela.
Venezuela marks the 25th anniversary of the first broadcast of Aló Presidente television program, a new way of communication in the country promoted by then President Hugo Chavez. The first program was broadcast on May 23, 1999 by the state-owned Radio Nacional de Venezuela. The program made possible a more direct communication between the Venezuelan people and Commander Chavez, who shared through it his national projects as well as his vision of global integration based on respect for the self-determination of the peoples. Aló Presidente represented the first program of open people's participation in which the President addressed topics of interest and the country's reality. Its transmissions stopped in January 2012 due to President Chavez's health problems. Commander Chavez also always praised from his program Aló Presidente the importance of the union of the peoples against world imperialism.
We have been talking for the last few days, determined to speed up the integration we need, the true integration, which must come from below. Therefore, today we are fighting against imperialism. We are together in the battle for life, for dignity, for the sovereignty of our peoples. And we have no choice but to unite against the common threat, which is the United States empire, the world imperialism, the world capitalism.
We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives in Belarus on a state visit to discuss security issues with his counterpart Alexander Lukashenko. The Russian president's plane landed at Minsk airport and was received by the Belarusian head of state. According to Lukashenko's press service, the talks between the heads of state on May 24th will be held in the Independence Palace in Minsk, initially with a limited group of delegates and then with a larger number of delegates. They will also discuss the second phase of the Russian nuclear exercise involving the Belarusian military. On Thursday, French President Emmanuel Macron met with local political and economic leaders in New Caledonia's capital, Nouméa. The president's visit is aimed at finding ways to end more than a week of looting, arson and clashes that have left 6 people dead and hundreds injured in the Pacific territory. The crisis erupted on Monday, May 13th, following a constitutional revision promoted by Macron government, which has already been endorsed by the National Assembly, to expand the New Caledonian electoral census. Despite the important independence movement in the archipelago, the no to separation from France has prevailed in 3 referendums. On Wednesday, Vital Kamerhe, the finance minister of the outgoing government of the Democratic Republic of Congo, was elected president of the country's National Assembly 3 days after an attack on his home during what authorities denounced as an attempted coup. Kamerhe was the only candidate during the voting session of the Assembly that gave him 371 votes out of a total of 407 available. In this context, the international community denounced the destabilization attempts that took place on Sunday and refuted the attacks on the political stability of the African nation. In this regard, Kamerhe referred to the incidents as moves to destabilize the institutions of the Republic. Spanish police recovered a painting by Francis Bacon valued at 5 million euros that had been stolen in Madrid in 2015. The recovery of a painting by Francis Bacon that was stolen along with 4 other works by the British painter from a private home in Madrid 9 years ago was announced on Thursday. At the time, the event was presented as one of the most important thefts of contemporary art in Spain, since the total value of the 5 paintings was estimated at 25 million euros. 3 of the 5 stolen works were recovered in 2017. Born in 1909, Francis Bacon became well known especially for his triptychs. One of them, 3 Studies of Lucian Freud, sold for $142.4 million in 2013, making it, at the time, the most expensive work of art sold in the world. Continuing with the cultural news, the presence of Latin America creators has not gone unnoticed during the days of the Cannes Festival. Karim Ainous, Daniel Burman, and Marcelo Caetano are some of the directors presenting their films at the event. In the Critics' Week, 2 Latin American films are competing for the awards. The selected films are Simón de la Montaña by Argentine Federico Luis and The Brazilian Baby, directed by Daniel Burman. The filmmakers' fortnight will feature films from Argentina, Brazil and Chile, as well as 3 short films from Mexico. In the official short film competition, the Brazilian André Hayato Saito will compete for the award with Amarela, and out of competition, the festival will premiere the Argentine Transmitzvah. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.